The world was not what it used to be. The ground was cold and hard, covered with broken armor and burned-out vehicles. Smoke floated in the air like dark clouds, hiding the sun. It felt like even the sky was crying for the people who had fought and fallen. Seraphine, the battle maiden, lay on the ground. Her legs would not move. The last thing she remembered was the loud explosion and the pain shooting through her body. She tried to lift herself up, but her strength was gone. She looked at her hands. They were shaking. Her beautiful silver armor was covered in dirt and blood. She felt broken, not just in her body, but deep inside her heart. Seraphine was not afraid to die. She was trained to face even the worst. But now, lying alone, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: loneliness. She wished she could talk to her friend again. The friend who had always made her laugh, who had believed in her. He was human, a soldier named James, but he was far away now, maybe even gone. She did not know. As she listened to the distant sounds of fighting, Seraphine closed her eyes and remembered the last time she saw James. It was before the big battle. He had smiled at her, his eyes full of hope even when the world was falling apart. He had said, "No matter what happens, Seraphine, don't give up. I'll see you on the other side." She had not answered, too proud to show she was scared. Now she wished she had told him how much his friendship meant to her. Seraphine felt tears on her cheeks. She hated to cry, but she could not stop. She felt so far from everyone, especially James. She wanted to see him again. She wanted to say thank you and tell him she was sorry. But she did not know how. He was gone, and she was alone. The pain in her legs was getting worse, but Seraphine tried to keep her mind busy. She remembered the stories her mother told her about hope, even in the darkest times. When you feel lost, her mother had said, look for a reason to keep fighting. Seraphine wanted to believe that, but it was hard. She was tired, cold, and afraid. Suddenly, she heard footsteps. At first, she thought it was the enemy. She tried to reach for her sword, but it was too far. She braced herself, ready to face death. The footsteps came closer, and then a shadow fell over her. She opened her eyes and saw a figure in a worn-out uniform. For a moment, she could not believe it. It was James. He looked tired and hurt, but his eyes were still full of that same hope. He knelt beside her, his hands gentle as he checked her. Injuries. You're alive, he whispered, relief in his voice. I was so worried I'd lost you. Seraphine wanted to say so many things, but all she could do was cry. James wiped her tears away and smiled. It's okay. I'm here now. I'm not leaving you behind. But my legs, Seraphine whispered. I can't walk. You should go. Save yourself. James shook his head. No, I made a promise. Remember? I said I'd see you on the other side. I'm not giving up on you. He gently lifted her, careful not to hurt her more. Seraphine was surprised at how strong he was. Every step he took was slow and careful. The battlefield was dangerous. But James did not stop. He talked to her softly, telling her stories about his home, his family, and the things that made him laugh. Seraphine listened, feeling a warmth in her heart. As they moved, Seraphine realized something. She had felt so far from James, so alone. But he had come back for her. He had not forgotten her. Even though she was hurt and could not fight, he still cared. That gave her hope. Maybe she could heal. Maybe, together, they could survive. The journey was hard. James had to hide from patrolling enemies and move through ruined buildings. Sometimes he had to stop and catch his breath, but he never let go of Seraphine. She wanted to help him, but all she could do was encourage him. You're doing great, she whispered. I believe in you. Those words seemed to make James stronger. He smiled every time she spoke, and Seraphine felt less like a burden. She realized that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is believe in someone else. Hours passed. The sound of fighting grew quieter as they moved away from the battlefield. Finally, they reached a small, hidden cave. James set Seraphine down gently and wrapped her in his own jacket to keep her warm. "We're safe for now," James said, sitting beside her. "I'll find help in the morning." "You're not alone, Seraphine. Not anymore." Seraphine smiled. Through her tears, she still felt pain, but it was mixed with hope. She looked at James, her friend, her hero. He had carried her to safety, but more than that, he had reminded her of what it meant to care for someone. She was not alone. Not anymore. As they sat together in the quiet cave, Seraphine knew the fight was not over. But now she had hope. And with hope, anything was possible. As dawn broke, light seeped into the cave, casting soft shadows on the walls. Seraphine stirred awake, her body still aching but feeling warmer than the night before. She turned to see James sleeping, his face relaxed and peaceful. The sight filled her with gratitude. He had saved her, carrying her through the chaos of battle, and now he was here, protecting her. Seraphine took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her situation. She still could not walk, and the fear of being a burden lingered in her mind. But James had not given up on her, and that thought sparked something inside her, a flicker of hope. After a while, James stirred awake. He smiled when he saw Seraphine looking at him. "Morning, warrior. How are you feeling?" he asked, his voice warm. "I feel better," she replied honestly. "Thank you for bringing me here. I don't know what I would have done without you." James shrugged, brushing his hair back. "You would have done the same for me. That's what friends do, right?" Seraphine nodded, her heart swelling with appreciation. "Yes, friends." But a part of her still felt distant. She wanted to say more, to express how much he meant to her, but the words felt stuck in her throat. After they ate some rations James had brought, he began to look around the cave. "We should find a way to signal for help. I'm sure the others are looking for us," he said, his brow furrowed with determination. "I wish I could help," Seraphine said, feeling helpless. "I can't even stand." James looked at her, his eyes full of understanding. "You're helping me just by being here. Your strength inspires me. We'll figure it out together." The words encouraged Seraphine. She realized that even though she felt weak, she still had a role to play. "Maybe I can help you think of a plan," she suggested. "I know this area well. I can remember paths and places." "Great idea," James said, his energy returning. "Tell me what you remember. We'll make it work." As they talked, Seraphine shared stories of her homeland, the lush forests, and the rivers that sparkled under the sun. She painted pictures with her words, describing the beauty of her world. James listened intently, fascinated by her descriptions. Each word brought them closer, bridging the distance that had grown between them. Hours passed, and their plans took shape. Together, they decided to create a smoke signal that could be seen from afar. It was a risky plan, but they needed to let others know they were alive. Seraphine felt a surge of excitement. She was not just a wounded warrior. She was part of something bigger. James gathered materials, while Seraphine directed him, using her knowledge to identify what would create the best smoke. She felt alive as they worked together, each moment filled with laughter and collaboration. The cave echoed with their voices, pushing away the shadows of fear. "Okay, this should do it," James said, looking pleased as he finished the setup. "Now we just need to light it." Seraphine took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Are you sure this will work?" "We'll find out soon enough," he replied with a grin, striking a match. The flame flickered to life, and they watched as The smoke spiraled into the air, dark against the blue sky. Seraphine felt a mix of hope and anxiety. Would anyone see it? Would anyone come for them? As they waited, Seraphine's mind wandered back to the time she had felt distant from James before. When he had moved to fight in the war, they had promised to stay in touch, but it had been hard. Letters took too long, and messages often got lost in the chaos. She had felt that same loneliness creeping in, like a shadow that never left. But now, here they were, together again. What if no one comes? She asked, her voice quiet. James turned to her, his expression serious. Then we'll find a way out ourselves. I won't let us stay here forever. You're too strong for that. His confidence reassured her. She could see the flicker of hope in his eyes, and it ignited something inside her. You really believe we can get through this, don't you? Absolutely, he replied. We're not alone. We have each other. That's what matters. As the hours passed, they shared more stories, laughing and remembering their adventures. Before the war, each tale brought back memories of joy and friendship, reminding Seraphine of the bond they had. She realized how much she missed him, and how grateful she was that he had come back for her. Finally, as the sun began to set, they heard voices in the distance. Both of them listened closely, their hearts racing. The sounds grew louder, and soon they could make out the shapes of soldiers approaching. Relief washed over Seraphine like a wave. They had been found. James quickly extinguished the signal fire, and they waited together, hand in hand, as the soldiers entered the cave. When they recognized James, their faces lit up with relief. We thought we'd lost you, one of them exclaimed. James smiled, but then he turned to Seraphine. This is Seraphine, a battle maiden. She saved my life, and I owe her everything. The camp was alive with activity. Soldiers rushed about, preparing for the next mission, while others tended to the wounded. Seraphine sat by a small fire, her heart full of gratitude and a hint of sadness. She was safe now, but the memories of the battlefield still haunted her. She felt the distance between her past and present, and between her and the other soldiers. James sat beside her, his presence comforting. He was talking with some of his fellow soldiers, sharing stories about their escape. Seraphine listened, but a part of her felt disconnected. They were all warriors, and she was still recovering. The thought made her feel small. As the night fell, the stars twinkled brightly above. James returned to Seraphine, a warm smile on his face. How are you holding up? He asked. I'm okay, she replied, forcing a smile. It's just, everything feels so different now. He nodded, understanding her struggle. I know what you mean. It's like we're all different people after what we've been through. But that doesn't mean we can't reconnect. Seraphine looked at him, her heart racing. I want to reconnect, but I don't know how. I feel so distant from everyone. James placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You've been through a lot. It's okay to feel that way. Just take it one step at a time. We'll figure it out together. His words lifted her spirits. She was grateful to have him by her side. Thank you, James. I don't know what I would do without you. As the days passed, Seraphine worked hard to regain her strength. With the help of the medics, she began physical therapy. Each day was painful, but she remembered James's words, one step at a time. Slowly, she learned to move her legs again. The first time she managed to sit up without assistance felt like a victory. James was always there, encouraging her. He would sit beside her during therapy, sharing funny stories or asking about her memories of home. Tell me more about your forests, he would say, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. I want to see them one day. Seraphine loved telling him about her home, the tall trees, the singing birds, and the rivers that sparkled in the sunlight. As she spoke, she felt the distance between them shrinking. With each story, they were building a bridge of connection. That made her heart feel lighter. One afternoon, as they sat by the training grounds, Seraphine noticed a group of soldiers practicing their skills. They were laughing and pushing each other, a sense of camaraderie filling the air. She felt a twinge of sadness. Will I ever be able to fight again? She wondered aloud. James looked at her earnestly. You will. I know it. You're a warrior. Seraphine, it's in your blood. He paused, then added, and I'll be right there beside you when you do. We'll fight together. The thought sent a rush of warmth through her. Together, she repeated, the word echoing in her heart. It felt good to have someone by her side, to share the burden of uncertainty. As the weeks went on, Seraphine grew stronger. She loved the feeling of progress, but she still felt a distance from the other soldiers. They were all friends, but she often felt like an outsider. She wanted to be part of their world, to laugh and train with them. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the camp, James turned to her with an idea. Why don't you join us for training tomorrow? You can show everyone what you can do. They'd love to have you. Seraphine hesitated. But I'm not ready. What if I fall? What if they see me as weak? James shook his head. You are. Not weak. You've already proven that. Plus, they'll admire your strength. You're a battle maiden. Show them who you are. His encouragement sparked a fire within her. The thought of training with her fellow soldiers filled her with excitement and fear, but she wanted to connect with them. She wanted to feel like a warrior again. The next day, she arrived at the training grounds, her heart pounding. James stood beside her, his presence steadying. As they approached, the other soldiers paused and turned to look at her. Whispers floated through the air, but James called out, Everyone, this is Seraphine. She's been through a lot, and today she's going to show us her skills. The soldiers cheered, their faces lighting up with encouragement. Seraphine felt a rush of warmth wash over her. Maybe this was her chance to reconnect. As she stepped forward, she remembered the training sessions from her home, the rhythm of movement, the feel of the sword in her hand. With James beside her, she began to demonstrate her techniques. At first, she stumbled, her legs still weak. But with each movement, she grew more confident. The soldiers cheered her on, their support lifting her spirit. You got this, Seraphine. One of them shouted. Another added, Show us what you've got. With each swing of her sword, she felt the distance between her and the other soldiers fade away. She was no longer just a wounded warrior. She was part of a team, part of a family. The laughter and shouts energized her, and she began to feel like herself again. After the training, the soldiers gathered around her, clapping and cheering. That was amazing. One of them exclaimed, You've got skills. James beamed with pride. See? You're already part of the team. We're all in this together. Seraphine's heart swelled with joy. She had reconnected with the warriors, and the distance that had once felt so heavy was now a thing of the past. She realized that no matter how far apart they had been, they could always find their way back to each other. As night fell, Seraphine sat with James by the fire. Thank you for believing in me, she said softly. I couldn't have done it without you. James smiled. You did it yourself, Seraphine. You are a warrior, and you always will be. With renewed hope and a sense of belonging, Seraphine looked at the stars above. She felt stronger than ever. Together with James and her fellow soldiers, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Asterisk days turned into weeks, and life in the camp began to feel more normal for Seraphine. She trained hard with the soldiers, pushing herself to regain her strength and skills. The distance she had once felt from her comrades faded as she became an integral part of the team. Laughter filled the air, and the camaraderie brought her joy. However, a shadow loomed over the camp as rumors of enemy movements spread among the soldiers. One evening, as the sun set in brilliant colors, Seraphine sat by the fire with James and the other soldiers. They shared stories and jokes, their spirits high despite the tension in the air. But Seraphine could feel the underlying worry. The soldiers spoke in hushed tones about recent attacks and the growing strength of the enemy. "Do you think they'll come here?" she asked James quietly, her voice a mix of fear and concern. James looked at her, his expression serious. "It's possible. We have to be ready. The enemy is ruthless, and they won't stop until they take everything from us." His words sent a chill down her spine. She wanted to believe that they could protect their camp, that they could fight together and win. But doubt crept in. Would she be strong enough? Could she really stand against the enemy? As the night wore on, Seraphine pushed her worries aside. She focused on the laughter and the warmth of friendship. But deep down, she knew that danger was approaching, and she had to be prepared. The following morning, the atmosphere in the camp changed. Soldiers moved with urgency, sharpening weapons and preparing for a possible attack. Seraphine joined them, her heart racing with a mix of fear and determination. She wanted to prove herself, to show that she was not just a burden, but a warrior. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, a loud horn echoed through the valley. The soldiers went silent, their eyes wide with fear. "The enemy was close. Get ready," shouted one of the commanders. "We need to defend our position." Seraphine felt her heart pound in her chest. She looked at James, who was already moving toward the front lines. "Stay close to me," he called out, and she nodded, determination flooding her veins. As they took their positions, Seraphine could see the enemy approaching. They were fierce and organized, their armor glinting in the sunlight. A wave of fear washed over her, but she pushed it back. She had trained for this moment. She was ready. The first clash of weapons rang out as the enemy charged. Seraphine fought alongside her fellow soldiers, her heart pounding. She focused on her training, remembering the support and encouragement of her friends. With each swing of her sword, she felt more powerful. She was no longer the crippled maiden. She was a warrior. But as the battle raged on, Seraphine's heart sank. The enemy was relentless, and their numbers seemed endless. She fought hard, but she could see that her comrades were struggling. "Stay together. Don't lose your formation," James shouted, trying to rally the troops. Seraphine could hear the fear in his voice, and it made her fight harder. She knew they had to protect each other, to stand strong as a team out in the chaos. Seraphine spotted a group of enemy soldiers breaking through their lines. Panic surged through her. "James, they're coming," she yelled, trying to warn him, but it was too late. The enemy surged forward, pushing into their ranks. In that moment, time seemed to slow. Seraphine felt a surge of adrenaline. She had to protect her friends. She moved toward James, who was surrounded by enemies. She fought her way through, her heart racing. "I won't let them take you," she cried, swinging her sword with all her might. Just as she reached him, an enemy soldier lunged at James. Seraphine reacted without thinking. She stepped in front of him, blocking the blow with her sword. The impact jolted through her arm, but she pushed back, determined not to let fear control her. The days after the battle were filled with recovery and reflection. The camp was quieter now, but the air was thick with determination. The soldiers worked hard to repair their defenses and heal the wounded. Seraphine joined them, eager to contribute, but she still felt a heaviness in her heart. The loss of her comrades weighed heavily on her, and she often found herself lost in thought. One afternoon, as she helped to reinforce a barricade, James approached her with a serious look on his face. "Hey, "Can we talk?" he asked, glancing around to ensure they were alone. "Of course," Seraphine replied, wiping sweat from her brow. She followed him to a quieter spot behind the camp. "What's on your mind?" James took a deep breath, his brow furrowed. "I've been thinking a lot about the last battle. We fought hard, but it feels like the enemy is always one step ahead. I'm worried about what comes next." Seraphine nodded, her heart heavy. "I feel it too. It's like we're always waiting for the next attack, never knowing when it will come." James looked at her, his eyes filled with concern. "I don't want you to feel scared. You're stronger than you realize. We all are, but we need a plan. We can't keep reacting to the enemy. We need to take the fight to them." The idea sparked a fire in Seraphine's heart. "You're right. We can't wait for them to come to us. We should strike first. We have to show them that we're not afraid." James smiled, his confidence returning. "Exactly. If we work together, we can gather our strongest fighters and launch a surprise attack. We can take back the territory they've claimed." As they discussed their plan, Seraphine felt the distance that had once separated her from her comrades dissolve. Together, they had a purpose. Together, they could reclaim their strength. Over the next few days, Seraphine and James rallied the troops. They shared their plan, and to her surprise, the soldiers responded with enthusiasm. "We're ready to fight." One soldier declared, "Let's show them what we're made of." Seraphine felt a wave of hope wash over her. The camaraderie among the soldiers was stronger than ever. They began training together, sharpening their skills and preparing for the upcoming battle. Seraphine felt more connected to her comrades than she ever had before. On the eve of the attack, the camp was alive with energy. Soldiers gathered around the fire, sharing stories and laughter. Seraphine sat with James, feeling a sense of belonging that had been missing for so long. "I can't believe how far we've come," she said, her heart full. James looked at her, his expression serious. "No matter what happens tomorrow, I want you to know that I believe in you. You've become such a strong warrior." "Thank you, James," she replied, her voice soft. "I couldn't have done it without you. You helped me find my strength." Again, as the night wore on, Seraphine felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. They were ready to fight, but the fear of the unknown lingered. What if things didn't go as planned? What if they lost more friends? But deep down, she knew they had to try. They had to fight for their home, for each other, and for those who could no longer fight. The next morning, before dawn, the soldiers gathered in the cool morning air. Seraphine stood at the front, her heart pounding. "Today, we take back what is ours," she called out, her voice strong. "We fight for our fallen friends and for our future." The soldiers cheered, their spirits high. As they set out toward the enemy's territory, Seraphine felt a sense of purpose. She was no longer just a battle maiden waiting for death. She was a warrior fighting for hope. As they approached the enemy camp, tension filled the air. The soldiers moved quietly, their eyes focused on the task ahead. Seraphine looked at James, who gave her a nod of encouragement. She felt a rush of adrenaline. When they reached the enemy's perimeter, Seraphine raised her sword. "On my signal," she whispered, her heart racing. With one swift motion, she shouted, "Now!" and charged forward, leading the attack. The soldiers followed her, their battle cries echoing through the air. The element of surprise was on their side, and for a moment, the enemy was caught off guard. Seraphine fought fiercely, her sword slicing through the air. She felt powerful, her heart filled with hope. She was fighting not just for herself, but for her friends and her future. As she battled, she could see James fighting nearby. They were side by side again, just like before, but as the fight raged on, the enemy began to regroup. They fought back harder, pushing the soldiers of the camp toward the edge. Seraphine's heart sank as she saw some of her comrades fall. The fear she had pushed away began to creep back in. "Stay strong," she shouted, trying to rally the troops. "We can't give up now." Just then, an enemy soldier charged at her from the side. Seraphine barely had time to react. She swung her sword, but he was fast. The blade clashed against her weapon, and she felt the force push her back. For a moment, she stumbled, her breath catching in her throat. James saw her struggle and rushed to her side. "I've got you," he shouted, blocking the enemy's attack. Together, they fought off the soldier, their movements in sync. Seraphine felt a surge of gratitude as they worked together, their bond stronger than ever. As the battle continued, Seraphine pushed through her fear. She remembered the faces of her fallen friends, the laughter shared around the fire, and the hope that had brought them this far. With each swing of her sword, she fought not just for survival, but for the future they all dreamed of. Finally, after what felt like hours, the tide began to turn. The soldiers from their camp fought back fiercely, drawing strength from each other. With renewed determination, they pushed the enemy back, reclaiming their ground. When the enemy finally retreated, cheers erupted among the soldiers. They had won. Seraphine felt a wave of relief wash over her, but her heart also ached for those they had lost. As they regrouped, James found Seraphine and pulled her into a tight embrace. "You were incredible out there," he said, his voice filled with pride. "We did it together," she replied, feeling the weight of their victory. "But we have to remember those who fought with us." James nodded, his expression serious. "We will. They will always be part of our story." As the sun set, Seraphine looked around at her comrades. They had fought hard and survived. Together, they would continue to fight for their home and for each other, their bonds stronger than ever. The victory at the enemy camp brought a sense of relief, but it also left Seraphine and the other soldiers with a heavy heart. They had won the battle, but the cost was high. Friends were lost, and the scars of war were clearer than ever. As they returned to their camp, the atmosphere was mixed with joy and sorrow. Seraphine walked alongside James, her heart aching for those they had lost. She could see the pain in the faces of her fellow soldiers, the weight of grief pressing down on them. "We did it," she said softly, trying to find comfort in their success. "But it's hard to celebrate when so many are gone." James nodded, his expression serious. "I know. We need to honor them. They fought bravely and deserve to be remembered." That night, the soldiers gathered around a large fire to pay tribute to their fallen friends. One by one, they spoke of their bravery, sharing stories that brought both laughter and tears. Seraphine listened intently, her heart swelling with pride for her comrades. But she also felt a deep sense of distance. She wanted to share her own story, to connect with them on a deeper level, but the words felt stuck inside her. When it was her turn to speak, Seraphine took a deep breath. "I didn't know any of you before this war, but you have all become my family. I want to honor those we lost, especially those who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." Her voice trembled, but she pushed through. "We fought together, and I will always remember the strength we shared." The camp fell silent, and then someone started to clap. Slowly, others joined in, their cheers echoing through the night. Seraphine felt a rush of warmth. For the first time, she truly felt like a part of the group. They were all warriors, bound by their experiences and their losses. As the fire crackled, Seraphine turned to James. "Thank you for being there for me. I don't think I could have done this without your support." James smiled, his eyes shining with pride. "You've become a true warrior, Seraphine. You've shown everyone what you're capable of." I'm proud to fight alongside you." The bond between them deepened that night. Seraphine felt grateful not only for James, but for all the soldiers who had become her friends. They had fought together and survived. They had shared their pain and their victories, and through it all, they had grown stronger. In the days that followed, the camp began to heal. The soldiers worked together to rebuild their defenses and prepare for whatever challenges lay ahead. Seraphine trained hard, pushing herself to learn new techniques and improve her skills. She felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just a battle maiden. She was a warrior with a mission. But despite the camaraderie around her, Seraphine still felt moments of distance. Some nights, as she lay in her tent, she thought about her life before the war. She remembered the peaceful days spent in her homeland, the laughter of friends, and the warmth of family gatherings. It was hard to reconcile that life with the harsh reality of war. One evening, Seraphine found James sitting alone by the fire. He looked deep in thought, staring into the flames. She approached him, sensing that he, too, felt the weight of their experiences. "Hey," she said softly, taking a seat beside him. "What's on your mind?"